Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream. I'm very excited today to have a conversation with Sofian from Newcoin. And yeah, we're having that conversation now because I really felt like we need to bring across what Newcoin is doing. And for the first time in Peak's history, I mean, there's a lot of projects related to AI. There's a lot of projects doing something with AI. And I mean, there's a lot of AI in the Peak ecosystem already. But Newcoin has a very different and special approach. And when Sophia and I met the first time, and you were telling me about it, I'm like, wow, this is something different. This is something novel, and this is yeah, quite genius in the way it's set up, I have to say. And yeah, so I got really excited, and I'm super excited that we have partnered, that Newcoin is also building in the Peak ecosystem, and we have like strong, deep synergies, which we will introduce a bit later as well in this live stream. And yeah, I mean, before we dive in, maybe Sophia, a few words on you and like Newcoin in a nutshell as an introduction.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having us. Very, very briefly. So first, I have to say that I'm obviously biased, and when someone understands what we do, it's a very good sign of intelligence and curiosity and strong mindset of innovators. So we've been working on this for the past 6 years, and the area of research is cybernetics. We believe that AI and crypto have that thing in common, which is when you go very, very deep into the computer systems, the thing that they have in common is this idea that you have nodes that have certain standards for what success means. In the case of blockchain, success means don't tamper the state. Like the state has to be, so it uses a lot of computation to protect the state, while AI is using a lot of computation to predict the state. And so it's very complementary. Those two are kind of, if you think about in society, we have areas where you don't want surprise. You want to be sure that you can rely that, your accounting, your bank accounts, your contracts, all those things are, they don't change. In other areas of your life, though, you need to be very creative. You need to find solutions. You need to, and so you have to come up, and that's where intelligence resides. And so, yeah, we are at the intersection of this for the past 6 years. We have pioneered a lot of the decentralized AI things. And yeah, that's us in a nutshell.
And now it's time to like really unveil what you've done to the world, right? Like launching big time. I mean, people can already download NewOS right now, but there's more to come. And yeah, I think, well, yeah, when we started talking, like the concept of cybernetics really like hooked me. And I think we like us explaining a bit more in detail, you explaining, and like me trying to potentially simplify so people listening for the first time, so that the way I understood it might help others to understand it as well, right? I think one of the first things you did was recommending a book to me, which is called here, I have it here. It's called Understanding Computers and Cognition. And it's quite an old book. But when I started reading it, I'm like, wait, what they talk about is so time relevant. I think it's from the 80s or 70s, 80s, right? And
Yes.
and you feel like they wrote it last year also. So it's very interesting how early on people have been talking about AI and like, yeah, artificial intelligence in general. And yeah, maybe we can start by a quick explanation of cybernetics and what that term actually means and how it's relevant for Newcoin.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good. I can start by presenting cybernetics through 3 examples. So let's take first biology. Let's take, a human, a baby. And then we will talk about cybernetics through the lens of military grade, Internet of Things. And then we will talk about cybernetics as from the angle of an internet system like, let's say, Google. So let's start with Google, actually. So the authors of the book were actually at Stanford. Terry Vinograd was actually the teacher of Larry and Sergey when he started Google. So what is Google? So what is cybernetics? So cybernetics is the study of feedback loops. It's the study of systems that get smarter as they collect feedback from the world outside. So if you take a baby, for example, you start your life and you build your nervous system based on testing things. So you test what happens if I beat my head on the wall. Ooh, that hurts, that hurts. And then you design your model of the world to not repeat the things that hurt and to repeat the things that work. And so that's why it's very important also to set the right boundaries. And that's why, babies need parents to kind of give them already some insights of like, don't try to jump by the window. Like people who try that, they are not even here to tell us how dangerous it is. So we use cybernetics as this kind of like experiential thing where we try things and we collect feedback and we readjust our world model. We adjust our world model to fit within the environment where we are and to achieve our goal. In the case of human, the goal is survival. In the case of a company, the goal is that the company needs to survive. And so both a human and a company need to have this, experience. It needs to validate hypotheses. Like product market fit means there is a feedback loop where the customer has declared that they needed something and you have been good at delivering to them. And there is an interaction there that is fine-tuned for high frequency interaction. So in the case of Google started as an algorithm to rank research papers. So they were counting how many times a research paper receives a good feedback from another author of papers, and they gave them a score, and that's how PageRank was invented. And then they said, hey, why don't we use this to sort the web? And so they kind of scaled the idea of PageRank to sort the web, and it became this $1 trillion algorithm. Another example would be, let's say you build a drone. In order for the drone to navigate and to shoot its targets, it needs to basically have visual signal of the environment and then navigate the environment based on its world model. So it has a world model of physics, of gravity, of what happens if I turn left, what happens if there is the wind. It has a lot of captors that collect that feedback from the world outside. And there is a machine learning algorithm that is trained to improve the drone, like whatever equipment, whatever device, whatever robots. A robot is collecting evidence or collecting feedback, and it updates its world model to better adapt and to better reach its goals. A self-driving car would be another example. The third category is, so we said, for the humans, for the companies, for the apps, when you build an app, you want to collect feedback from humans. If you serve ads, TikTok, all those systems that are actually cybernetic systems. And so that theory of cybernetics is the real AI. So currently, I would say, and I will explain why, I believe we are in this fake AI world, and I will explain why it's much harder to do cybernetics and why this is what everyone now is working on in the AI space.
And I think that's really when I wrap my head around, right? And I like the example of ChatGPT launching. I felt like when ChatGPT launched, initially it was better because it got trained on high quality input and data. And then I felt like after a couple of months, it got a bit worse because it got a lot of input which wasn't that great, right? Like a lot of the feedback and input it got wasn't as high quality anymore, like when it got access to the internet and so on. So, and this is where it really clicked, right? And you applying cybernetics to developing artificial intelligence further, like making AI smarter, by building that feedback loop into not only developing, like having a smarter model, but every conversation and building up a system with Newcoin that is kind of building that feedback loop of making it smarter and smarter and smarter and better and better and better, and really combining crypto with artificial intelligence in a way that a traditional centralized AI company can't do, right? Because they're just working with that one closed system and one closed model. So yeah, I would love to talk about the different roles that you have in Newcoin and how they kind of create this feedback loop.
Yeah, awesome. I can actually start from what is the alignment we have with the peaq technology stack. Because when we started to talk, we quickly realized actually we were building something very similar because we believe in the same type of abstractions. And so the key idea here is that cybernetics can be within a closed system. So if you take OpenAI, they have a lot of cybernetics loops that happen. First, the training itself, the loss function is kind of optimizing towards, testing data, using the test data to approximate as much as possible, the ground truth, like the good responses. So that's a form of cybernetics. Then they use a lot of reinforcement learning from human feedback, from machine feedback, all sorts of cybernetic loops there. But the thing that is limiting for closed systems is that you cannot really scale something where you have a team of humans who's putting their brand on it and they are responsible for everything that comes out of it. We are seeing it every day. OpenAI is accused of all sorts of things, and so it puts a lot of pressure on them, and they cannot really innovate much. So the next evolution of that is, how do we create a completely permissionless version of that kind of cybernetic loop? So how do you let really cybernetics apply everywhere and interconnect everything and create this kind of combinatorial explosion, this combinatorial connectivity between all those nodes? And then you quickly jump into the problem of trust, right? So when you present peaq, I think one of the key ingredients of peaq is this concept of the trust fabric.
Yeah.
The fabric of trust in blockchain systems started initially as, let's use a high resource commitment in electricity, which is Bitcoin.
Yeah.
If you spend so much electricity, the likeliness that you want to attack the system is very low, so we can trust you to run a node. The second iteration of that was proof of stake, which came from Dan Larimer, the inventor of BitShares and Steemit and so on, which is, how do we use actually money instead of burning electricity to create this game theoretical alignment between all the nodes in the system? But both money and electricity, they are kind of useless. They don't really provide value. And so when you use true value creation, then obviously you get into that rabbit hole of, but what is a valuable contribution? What is value versus fake? And so that's where you get into this like peer-to-peer feedback loop where the system progressively assigns points, reputations on actions that were performed well, and then you give each one of them a certain weight because they gain trust from the network. And then you can use also work, like proof of work, proof of stake. You can use all of that as part of a cocktail. But it's this idea that when you look at eigenlayer, when you look at all those different forms of modular systems, they all have that thing in common, which is that they are increasingly smart at using resource commitments that actually drive value to the network. And so that takes us into the world of reputation. And so, we'd love to actually understand better, like use cases on peaq for Deepin, like what does it mean to have a good reputation?
100%. And actually, this is a bit of alpha because a lot of what I share now and what I shared with you initially, we haven't really published yet, right? But it's when we thought about it, okay, why do you even need a new blockchain for the machine economy? And right, why can't you build it on any other chain? Is because in the end, we are convinced that inside the chain itself, on the runtime of the blockchain, not on a smart contract level, there should be rules that create a trust fabric and a reputation system, which are really engraved into the protocol itself. And those rules are enforced and protected by the decentralization and censorship resistance of that network. So we said, and that's why we said this cannot be built on any other layer 1, layer 2. It needs to be specially designed. And this is some alpha I'm sharing here. And I won't go into too much detail, but it's really about, okay, how can you build a system where machines and humans can transact with each other peer-to-peer? They can trust each other without knowing each other before, without having a central trusted brand, as you said, that is saying, look, we are Google, you can trust us, right? So this is really the thought about it. Like, how do we create trust on scale? And we came to realize that you cannot, for example, you cannot verify data at scale, because in a decentralized system, there's so many ways to manipulate data. But if you can build a reputation system where you have multiple things, right? Economic stake is one part of it, reputation, origin, and so on and so on. Like, they can put multiple things into formula, and yeah, we will publish this probably later this year. Sorry, and go deeper into this. But yeah, when we had that conversation, we realized, okay, there are many things where, like, we're thinking about many of the same topics. We're a bit more on the physical machine, device, and data level, right? For example, how can deepen devices that produce energy together and offer that energy to a humanoid walking through the city? How does the humanoid know this offer is legit, right? And like, building trust into this. It starts by simple things, by giving like each machine a DID, decentralized identifier, like a machine identity, and they can cryptographically authenticate themselves. They can be a challenge which they can sign. Data can be signed at the origin, right? Like, this is one simple part. Like, it's just one small piece of the whole way of building trust in such a system. But ultimately, it comes down to game theory as well. It comes down to, like, feedback loops, staking. And this is, I think, where we're very complementary also in Stacks, because we do this more on the physical IoT and machine level, and you guys are building. And I thought about it really like the open intelligence system of the machine economy, right? And I think that's kind of how I see really Newcoin, NewOS on the broader peak vision and the broader machine economy vision, building that open source intelligence system, which ultimately we will dive a bit deeper into all kinds of use cases there. Yeah, but what really fascinated me is when I saw NewOS and you asking NewOS a question, and then suddenly there were multiple agents having a conversation with each other before giving an answer. And that really visualized for me that feedback loop in real time. Maybe you want to share a bit about that and how that works.
Yeah, sure. So back to the idea of trust. So what you just said, that nodes need to perform in a certain way in order to prove, their relevance, their legitimacy, their trustworthiness. That's the ingredient for emergent order. So if you think about what makes decentralization, the word decentralization is a very broad term. A lot of people have different definitions. To me, decentralization is really a word for emergent order versus prescribed order. So a prescribed order is a top-down hierarchy where you have the CEO that gives the employees, that gives the managers, the employees, and so on, some kind of like direction. And they decide, they make assumptions about who are the best people to perform. So if you think about the way we have built our societies, like, let's say, you look at democracy and trust in, the state system. So we elect someone at the top, and then we have all those institutions that have designated, they have prescribed, they have said that person is the most trustworthy person. And they kind of like, point at each other, trust. And at the end, you have that kind of like system. And that's the best system. That's the least worst system we have until now. If you think about a TV channel, you have like the head of the TV channel. They will say, okay, I want to hire the head of the programs, and then the head of the programs hired, TV hosts and like movie producers. They decide, to license stuff. If you look at Hollywood, it's the same. Then comes TikTok. TikTok doesn't have any, prescription. It doesn't say, oh, I'm going to guess that this guy is better or that guy. You just let evolutionary pressure emerge. You just let like all those nodes in the network prove that they are actually delivering value. Everyone starts with the same chances. You create your TikTok account and you have the same chance to succeed. And then there is this algorithm that says, okay, we are going to test everyone And the ones that are the best are going to go to the top. Fast forward to today, TikTok has completely killed the game. Like the whole entertainment industry now is on TikTok and YouTube to some extent and Instagram. But all those systems are emergent. The problem is that they are emergent, but there is still a dimension of centralization that really feels odd. It's like the power of companies like Meta, in my opinion, is that they use cybernetics, they use decentralization very well, but they put a backdoor on the entire system where they can decide to, turn off an account or, so it has the best of both worlds. It has the best of emergent order and freedom, but it has also the worst of, this kind of authoritarian, autocratic, power to manipulate, and so I think the next phase for blockchain, I think we have been pretty good at creating systems for, guaranteeing your state. Like your state is kind of safe. It doesn't matter really. I didn't hear so many blockchains that were actually hacked on the stack itself. Really now the hack is happening at the definition of, value. Like which token has actually value we are very poor at that. We have projects that are like complete, useless stuff that get very high market cap.
Meme coins.
Yeah, like all those things. It's almost like kind of it's almost cynical, like the way price is applying. So we need now that new layer that incorporates that notion of what is valuable, what is the reward function, the value function that we want to incorporate in our systems, and that will be decentralized AI. To me, decentralized AI is not like wrapping a model into a blockchain or into a token, but it's really about taking this idea of cryptography and this idea of creating a reward function and then using cybernetics to iteratively improve towards that ideal state. And so the ideal state can be up to consensus. People will say I value entertainment, someone else will say I value science, I value correctness, I value aesthetics, I want things to be beautiful. It has to be fun, whatever. We all have different criteria of what to value, but we need to reconcile this and bring this into the blockchain stack. So Newcoin, the goal is to start from the reward function. So that's the thing we need to decentralize. If you look at TikTok, for example, TikTok is a pure reward function for attention. It doesn't care. It doesn't even know what's inside the videos. The algorithm is just predicting that if it puts this in front of your eyes, you are going to stay in front of the screen. And everyone is optimizing for that. If you're a content creator and you are, not optimizing for attention, you are not going to get distributed by TikTok. So they have chosen this because obviously the advertising model is like the dominant model and the traction, like the metric of, how many people. In blockchain, it's a bit tricky, like what to measure to know if a network is successful. Is it the amount of transactions per day? Is it the TVL? Like all those things can be easily gamed, right? So that's the number one question. What do we want intelligence to optimize for? And that's the thing we need to decentralize, in our opinion. And so you create cybernetics for that. You create feedback loops where people, they look at outputs, they say, oh, that was good, that was bad. This whole concept of RLHF, reinforcement learning from human feedback, which is used by all the AI labs. We pioneered it 3 years before it became famous. This idea that as humans, you tell the AI, this was good, this was bad, and then it readjusts and it learns to adapt to you. Back to this like cybernetics. That definition is a consensus, and that's what we have built. And so when you optimize towards what the consensus likes, you get points, and those points give you higher level of trust within the network.
And you also have, right, like it's so you have a person asking Neo as a question, right? And then what you see, I'm just going to simplify, then you see different AI agents, be it OpenAI, like ChatGPT, DeepSeek, Grok, they have a conversation with each other. Right? I'm just simplifying, maybe not fully accurate, but they have a conversation with each other to discuss what would be the best answer, right? So within that loop, you already have that feedback loop. And then you can take, for example, someone is an expert on cybernetics, right? And you can say, hey, that expert has an agent in the system as well, which represents the knowledge of that expert, pulled from platforms like X and others. So you pull that expert in, and then suddenly you have an expert in that conversation as well that gets you the best possible answer, right? And that expert has a weighting, and then you have people who can review the output, like everyone can review the output, right? But based on reviewing the output, you get rewarded for it and it gets ranked. So like you have that open system where all the knowledge and all the experts in the world can come in and contribute, and then you have a system to review the accuracy, the knowledge, and so on, right? So like you're open sourcing, making intelligent more intelligent, and you allow everyone to participate in it, and you allow everyone to earn from it. And like swarm intelligence, I mean, in my mind, and of course I'm biased, but this is 100% going to work much better than what a closed company can do. Like it can have all the funding in the world. And you know, like when I chat with ChatGPT, maybe OpenAI has labeled me already as an expert in a certain field, probably might be the case, but I don't think they can do it on the same scale. Like if you do it the way you do it with Newcoin, and like taking public experts and like having that open review system. So the way you've integrated cybernetics in that full loop really, really impressed me and blew my mind.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, I think we have seen this over and over playing since the history of the internet. So one great example is, so you know, you have this concept of the TV versus TikTok. That's an easy one. At the beginning of the internet, there was this company that was valued $200 billion or even more, I think, at some point in the 90s, called Yahoo. So some people in the audience might not know that old school company, but basically Yahoo, they were this like first arrived, and they took a lot of importance on the internet because what they were doing was creating a directory of all the websites, sorting them in categories, and they had a team of human editors, employees working at Yahoo, and they were organizing the entire internet. The internet was very small back then. And so they would come and you would submit your website and they would review the website manually and then add it manually. It was all like permission. It was centralized, it was top down, it was prescribed. The boss of Yahoo was deciding who to hire to do that review process. And that couldn't scale. At some point, Google came and said, hey, we are going to index all the pages, the entire internet into a graph, and then we are going to apply an algorithm. So Google was completely permissionless. You could get your website into Google. The rest is history. We know what happened. Yahoo disappeared, and now Google is $1 trillion company. The same will happen to AI. We will look back 10 years from now, and we will see all those companies saying, hey, I'm the king of the world. I'm going to create this AGI that's going to organize, you know, I have a team of employees, whether it's 1,000 or 10,000, that are going to organize the entire intelligence of the world. There is every day about a dozen papers that are released around the world about AI systems. A team of 1,000 people cannot metabolize all of that. So they will have to, you know, make bets on things, and the amount of bets they can do every day is limited. By creating a completely permissionless ecosystem where anyone can come, and the goal for us is also to reduce, to lower the bar so that even non-technical people can do data science. Like that's what we are currently working on. If we have a community of 1 million people, each one trying different assumptions, releasing an agent, releasing a model, fine-tuning, trying different architectures, different combinations of architectures, and they all compete against the same reward function, against the same scoring system, that will create the evolutionary condition to get to something that's way more capable than what you know, a single lab can do. That's the thesis that is validated by Google versus Yahoo, but also if you think about the Apple App Store. If Apple tried to hire the best employees to build Instagram, Uber, Shazam, all those apps,
forget it.
Couldn't have succeeded, right? They had to outsource the risk to a massive network of people. And that's what NeoOS does. It lowers the bar. It allows anyone to come to create an agent, give it a wallet, an identity, a memory, space, a brain, and then play with it, fine-tune it, improve it, compete. And then exactly what you just described, when a customer comes and they buy access to the AI, they buy an access not to one model, but to a constellation of models that compete.
Yeah.
And when you type your prompt, they come, they compete, they argue, they search each other, and so on. And that process, each time you do it, the data gets logged, it gets added to the state, and the state keeps expanding. We have currently about 30 million of those learning signals. And now the open source community has access to continuous stream of that experience data. It's really the experience. Right now, the internet data we run out. All the big AI labs, they all scrape the same data.
Yeah.
So now they are after your time on their interface.
Exactly.
Each time you click, each time you respond, you say, not like this, not like that. Or when you vibe code for 5 hours, that's your mental energy, and that's what they are scraping. And that's what basically NewOS gives you back.
Yes. Open. And I just want to quickly add there, exactly, like you have all the models in NewOS, so you don't need any other subscription anymore. Basically, you have a NewOS subscription, you have access to all the models, and not only that, like your feedback and your input, you're directly rewarded in the system. And yeah, so just to emphasize again, this might be the Google moment of AI, and yeah, just a small hint there. But I really like that. Yeah, it's and just to add there, this is what when it clicked for me, I also felt like, wow, you might not need the biggest data center in the world. You might not need 50 billion in funding. You might just need this genius way of how Google built the graph to apply this to AI and like improving intelligence, and you could outcompete the best funded private companies the world has ever seen. And I think this possibility is really here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the entire thesis of permissionless networks. I think crypto was invented, like that use case to me, it's like the reason why crypto exists.
Yeah.
I think that if we can use the power of cryptography to let the constellation of model builders, of data creators, of reviewers, like all those people using the same rails and without the need to trust each other because it's all cryptographically signed, it's all backed by staking, it's all backed by a bunch of game theoretical mechanism design. Then yeah, exactly, you don't need to pick the winners. You don't need to figure out like, okay, like, I will hire this like guy for 100 million hoping that my market share will go up. But like, it's such a big risk, you have to like prescribe, you have to guess that the dream team is going to be that team. And because they have been successful in the past is a great indicator of future potential, but it's not a guarantee. Like the best discoveries sometimes came even from people who are not even from the field.
Yeah.
So that's the...
We just completely think outside the box and approach the whole problem from a complete different perspective, right? Yeah, and I think just going back to our synergies and joint vision again, right? Like having that open layer of, having that so we talk about the machine economy, right? We talk about an economy that's mostly run by machines. That can be physical machines, can be agents, digital machines. And we strongly believe at Peak, first of all, it's only going to work if it's open and permissionless. And second of all, it's also the right thing for all of humanity, right? Because once machines take over a majority of our economy, we humans, we're not really going to have that many jobs anymore we can do to get paid. But if we all have access to participate in that economy financially, if we all can contribute with infrastructure, and if we all have access to the intelligence that is collectively powering that economy with NewOS and a new coin, right? We can actively shape not only the pure financial economic layer, but also the intelligence layer of that economy. And it's very abstract, but this is how Newcoin and Peak fit together so well. And we talked already about robotics and physical AI as well briefly, right? But like if you just think about having humanoids at home and you have physical AI all around you, the way you're going to interact with those machines and the way you're going to give feedback to it and you're going to like train it, no way this can be done just in a centralized way, right? And I think this is exactly where Newcoin also comes in. It's not just like model AI, like not just making digital AI better, it's also about physical AI.
Exactly. Like that's exactly how AI is going to play out. So first, it starts from the internet. We use it to like, search the web and do all kinds of stuff in the digital space. There are two main axes for AI to improve. The first axis is increasing the time horizon. So today you can leave an AI by itself for a few minutes and it doesn't deviate completely from your initial intent. It's still not there yet. And that's again because what we use now is not real AI, like this whole I think it was a great thing for the AI space that this LLM hype happened, but it's as all experts now agree, this like monolithic like AGI based on a big LLM with trillions of parameters, that's not the path to AGI. But it was a great first step. Now the next step is learning from experience. So there's a great paper by Richard Sutton and David Silver from DeepMind. AI is going to generate its own data by trying to do things. And each time it will try, it will get a feedback from that. Most of that feedback will not even come from humans. It will come from the environment, from, like I try to do X and I try to find something on the internet. And did it work? And I try different strategies. And then the one that works, it readjusts the model. So that's one path. So increasing the time horizon by letting the agent accumulate a lot of experience about what it tries to do, and then training itself on its own experience data, kind of the AlphaGo moment, when they used actually self-play, like the thing playing against itself, they were able to create much more data than just observing humans playing. The second axis is going into the physical space because the internet is very limited. It's just like information, it's a bit of service. But like really the activity is happening in the real world, in the supply chain, in the food, in the construction, in all of that. And so there will be an increased entry of those AI systems into the physical world. And so when you combine both the experience paradigm and the physical world, then you get very quickly into this problem of how do experiences circulate between those robots. So like I'm a robot. I was chatting with this about this with a great mind from who's working actually on this. He was telling me, I just don't want to name drop, but someone big in AI. He was telling me, imagine you are in a supply chain and you are a robot and you are working, on packing stuff. And suddenly there is a cat that comes into the place. What do? You have never seen a cat in your life. You don't have that experience. Yeah. What if you could download from a search engine and say, okay, I'm going to download the cat behavior and now I know what it is, what I can do with it, what I cannot do with it, and so on. You cannot store all of that, all that into one giant model. It has to be a modular world where you can pull models from, and so that's where we don't want this thing. And really, that's extremely important. We don't want this thing, please, guys, to live on a cloud, on a data center owned by one company.
Yeah.
Because that means owning the entire planet.
Exactly.
What we want is an open ecosystem where everyone has a piece of the puzzle. And if you want to recompose the puzzle, you need to ask to all those people. And we are all part of that economy. So the machine economy, the way you envision it, is we all own our little data sets, our little models. And then when you need to solve a specific problem, then you're going to take that from all the experts. And it's a massive mixture of experts with probably billions of models and data sets and so on that encompass the entirety of the human existence or the robot's existence.
And this is also where DePIN, right? Decentralized physical infrastructure networks, like sensor networks, collecting all of that data, right? This was what Sofian you now described is a bit more like in the future, but this is why DePIN is so powerful, right? Like physical AI needs all that data of the real world, and this is being collected right now through DePINs. And then having that layer, I mean, this is why we build Peak. Also, the way we build it, you need a real-time decentralized transaction infrastructure where, as you said, like everything is like ranked in terms of trust, like you have a peer-to-peer trust system, you have a peer-to-peer intelligence system, you have a peer-to-peer financial system, right? And in real time, someone can offer something, consume something, pay that, and this is how it has to be, because otherwise, as you're saying, we will have one company, the few people that own and control the entire planet. First of all, this is not what we want, and second of all, I think we're both so convinced that our way will be the much better way of achieving the goal, because you cannot centralize this.
Exactly. To me, this vision of like hyper concentration is both problematic, like ethically questionable, but it's also doomed to fail.
Yeah.
Because nature, each time a system has embraced, the natural way of things, the emergent of the order of evolution, of selection, it always wins. If you look at like open source versus closed source, like most open source versions of something have been more successful, but also like open ecosystem, like the platform economy has killed the broadcast economy, and the natural progression of that platform is the blockchain. And so that's why a lot of people think that blockchain is over now, it's all about AI. It's both, and I think blockchain will be the foundation for AI. And I know it's a cliche to say that, but like within the context of everything we just discussed, like it's the coordinator of that evolutionary ecosystem of intelligences that will work together.
100%. And I feel like we're getting closer and closer to this becoming a breakthrough, and this, like, more and more people waking up to this. Like, it could be a month, it could be 6 months, I don't know, but I feel like we're really getting close. And I mean, in the context of our partnership and collaboration, right, there's also a lot in the next days coming out. So like all of you will be able to engage heavily with Newcoin. There's some alpha dropping here, right? Get Real is relaunching very soon. And you can be sure that Newcoin is featured in there. And like, again, I'm repeating myself, but I have many subscriptions with all the different AIs, and I think I'm just gonna reduce it to Newcoin, because I have it all in one go. And the beauty to all peak holders and everyone, the peak ecosystem, right, is, and I just wanna, as an introduction to this, I think you guys did a very smart decision. Like, you analyze the market and see, okay, launching a token, if you do it too early, it doesn't really make sense, because you will be busy with just managing the token for a long time, right? And a token should be launched once there's a certain level of revenue achieved and a certain level of project maturity, so you're able to focus. And yeah, we're super, super happy to share and announce that Newcoin will use peaq as the initial incentive token of the system, right? Where each subscription of NeoS will be used to buy back peaq from the market until you guys reach a certain revenue threshold. So any peaq ecosystem member, any peaq holder should be extremely bullish about this, because it's like synergies in terms of alignment couldn't be greater. And I'm really, really happy to share that with all of you.
Yeah, it all happened very naturally, and I think that was meant to be this way. We are very cautious about launching a token, because our main focus is creating something that customers find superior to big AI labs. And that's very hard to do. We also took the time the last few months to build consumer interface on top of the protocol, which is also a very hard thing to do. And launching a token on top of that would be a very dangerous move. Meanwhile, we see a lot of potential in the peaq token to accrue value. If we start to, if we put together nice tokenomics with staking, with buybacks, and so on, there's a powerful engine to create there, and that can be for us a great way to start, basically, because also most of the nodes we have on NeoS, we have about 100,000 agents, we have about 45,000 humans. We haven't yet distributed anything. We just distributed points, and so having like an actual token that you can value and so on, that's going to give a lot of energy to this nascent ecosystem. And once again, super relevant great community, great network, a great vision, great technological stack. We are working with the peaq team on the tech side, and we are finding how much aligned we are in terms of this cybernetic intelligent blockchain with the trust fabric and so on. And yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much for being here. And yeah, I'm super excited for us to build together. Like, we have a long journey in front of us, many decades to come. And I truly think we can change the trajectory of humanity and yeah, our world, because I think what you guys are building, what we are building is, yeah, it's foundational to the next chapter we're entering. Thanks everyone for listening. We've been talking for almost now. I think we could easily talk 3 more hours or so. But yeah, I think we covered the most important points, and like all the other details will be released with the tweets. And yeah, please check it out, get involved. Like you can go now and test NeoS. And yeah, I was blown away. Like when you see those agents having a conversation with each other, it's just like, boom, it makes so much sense. Amazing. Thanks so much, Sofian.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Leo.